So for with that, I'd like to just sort of learn a little bit about each of the growers here. Maybe starting with Cindy and working on down, but maybe in a minute or two, if you could just sort of give us an overview of you know, why you were attracted to farming, how you started up, and really what you're doing right now.
Well, I started Basil & Beyond about 1.5 years ago, and my professional and educational background was in environmental studies and biology, and I've had an interest in environmental issues for quite a while. My professional background was in nonprofit management, and I was also a hobby gardener. And like most gardeners, every year the garden took up more and more and more of the backyard. We had less and less grass, we had more and more raised beds and more containers with funky things growing out of it. So
that could be a symptom, and if you notice that you're losing yard, that may be a sign.
So my latest career is for the past almost 7 years I've been a full-time stay-at-home parent. And about 1.5 years ago my oldest son went to kindergarten, and I started thinking about getting back into the workforce. And I started thinking about my interests and skills and things that I was good at, and I knew how to grow herbs, and I was very interested in the local food movement. And so I decided to marry all of these interests and start Basil & Beyond. I do it as a part-time business. I still have one child at home who does not go to school full-time. So another consideration in addition to what I was interested in doing was at the same time I considered starting the business, the economy was crashing, Lehman Brothers was going under and things like that. And I knew there was not a lot of jobs out there for people who wanted to work 10 hours a week with 7-year gaps in their resume. So it was more need fueling sort of, it was a little bit of a push to kind of become self-employed. So I started about 1.5 years ago. I do this all on my property. I do a lot of raised beds, a lot of intensive agriculture, a lot of container gardening. I sold as a guest vendor to Lakewood Earth and Foods Leaf Night. I also sold to friends. I do a line of dried herb products, dried herbs in jars. And then I've also done a couple of side projects, like I'm growing herbs right now for centerpieces for a woman's wedding that's coming up this spring. I was hired to install an herb garden for a client. So it has all gone very well. My first year was a very learning year, and this next year, 2010, we're ramping up to do even more. I'm selling in a farmer's market. I've landed a restaurant customer, and I hope to be selling to a subscription service. So it works very well for me in my day. You know, I'll drop off one of my kids at preschool, I'll go out and water the plants, I'll come back in, throw in a load of laundry, then we'll eat lunch, then I'll email my customers, then I'll play Thomas the Train for an hour, and then I'll be here, and then... So it works very well as a part-time business for the lifestyle I have, and it's going well, and each year I hope to ramp up a little more. And so look for more from Basil & Beyond in the future.
Thanks, Cindy. Bruce?
Well, I've been market gardening for about 20 years. I have about 3 acres out in Mentor. I farm maybe about 1.5 acres. I have some high tunnels and a glass greenhouse. Do it part-time, and adding to what everyone was talking about, the size of a farm or the farmer would be. I mean, I agree that it'd be anything from a backyard farmer up to a large scale, but if you wanted to do it full-time, I think you probably need like a couple acres at least if you're a market gardener with some high tunnels and a greenhouse. Bit of capital, a little bit of equipment. I started selling at the North Union Farmers Market about, I think it was 16 years ago when they first opened. When we started, there were like 6 farmers, and from that point up until now, I think they have 50 or 60 farmers, but there was this ratcheting up. Like when we first started, we didn't have enough customers, partly because there weren't enough vendors. So we needed more vendors, so when we got more vendors, then we didn't have enough customers. There was this ratcheting up from vendors to more customers to more vendors to more customers until we're at this level right now, which is what a perfect equilibrium with vendors and customers. That's about it. I just enjoy farming.
How did you get into it? Why did you start?
Well, I enjoy being outside. I enjoy growing plants. I guess I'm a glutton for punishment. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's hard on the knees, I'll be honest. But it's very enjoyable.
Jessica?
I'm Jessica Levine, founder of Wonder City Farm with my sister Emmy, who's also in the room. Let's see. I guess personally, I got my start working as an apprentice in Oregon for several seasons on a small organic vegetable farm. In 2005, Emmy and I began talking about working together. She is in education, so the idea was that we would both move back to Cleveland, start an urban-based educational farm, which is what we did in the beginning. More recently, for practical and financial reasons, we decided to move our operation outside of the city. And each year, we expand a little bit more, grow on a little bit more land. We're currently doing, I'll say, 2.5 markets. We don't fully represent at one of our markets, but we are at Tremont and the Countryside Market in the Peninsula. And our hope is to get back to our original educational mission once we can get kind of a steady footing, just production-wise.
So you're in the countryside now, correct? Are you still farming in the city, or have you transitioned?
We are actually completely out of the city.
And how did you make that decision?
I think my personality is not suited to growing in the city. You have neighbors that you have to deal with. I'm kind of a reclusive person. This is hard for me to be up here in front of all of you. But you have to answer to your neighbors, and being in the country, there's a freedom to kind of do what you want to do when you want to do it. You don't have to get it approved by the city or by your neighbors. So I think for now that works. I think there's real value in growing in the city, and part of me wishes that we could have made it work. It just didn't happen that way. But I'd kind of like to address the first question that came up, and I would say don't be afraid to stay small. We're currently growing on less than an acre, and we do okay. We're certainly not rolling in cash, but our business is growing, and I think it's flourishing. And I think it's important to figure out what you can do on a human scale, like not to rely too much on heavy equipment and, petroleum-powered machinery. So I just wanted to put that out there, that it's okay to be small.
One of the reasons why I asked Jessica to be on the panel is that, I sort of see some pathways towards how we're going to create these new farmers. And I think all of the vacant land in Cleveland and Cuyahoga County really gives us a pretty extraordinary opportunity to get started, to get 5,000, 10,000 square feet, and see if we can make it work on that scale. But I think the folks who really exceed on that, and I might be wrong, but I think the folks who really exceed are eventually going to want to graduate into a farm where they can really have some space, probably in the suburbs or in the countryside. And so I sort of see what Jess is modeling here in terms of transitioning from sort of the small scale to the urban to the small scale rural, and maybe scaling up from there, as really, sort of prototyping, modeling this future pathway that I think we're going to see more and more growers transition into. And I think one of the reasons why we're going to see that is because, and I would be interested to hear your perspective on this, but I think that a lot of the new farmers that we're going to see over the next 5, 10, 50 years are going to be folks who didn't grow up on farms. They're going to be folks who grew up in the city and really had little to no agricultural experience growing up, and that was really never expected of their lifestyle. So I think, certainly some folks are from urban areas are going to sort of make that shift and go out to Oregon and work on the farms. But I think others are going to get their taste of that in the city and eventually transition into having a little bit more space and a little bit more freedom with that. So I think that's one of the pathways that we're going to continue to see.